Hi everyone, this is Alexandria Bordis. Hopefully you all can hear me great and the internet is going smoothly over everyone's channels. I am the program manager at Real Stories. I started in November and it's just been an incredible opportunity to serve the filmmaking creators of the next generation and really to help support closing the gender gap and uplifting female and non-binary voices across the United States and beyond. So, as you all know, we are definitely trying to make use of this quarantine situation in the most creative and uplifting way possible. So, Real Stories for the next couple weeks is going totally digital. We are going to be offering a lot of really incredible programming opportunities in the form of Instagram Lives, like we're doing today, our very first one. We're going to be doing some Zoom opportunities where we can have people watch some great Q&As with some experts from the field, with some of our student board creators as well. And we're also going to be doing some virtual screenings. So later on in the week, we're gonna feature our incredible Teens 2 documentary that was created 100% by our student board that takes a look at the growing up in the time of the Me Too and Time's Up movement. And then we're going to interview the filmmakers later this week. And we're also going to be doing some challenges. So at the end of our little talk today, I'm going to toss a challenge out to you all and others in your community to keep those creative thoughts flowing and to also maybe learn some new skills along the way if you're new to filmmaking. We are offering all of our digital programming for free online. You're going to be able to access it after in case you have to leave early or in case you want to share it with others. We are also offering it to not just our usual community of female and non-binary creators. We're offering it to everybody who is just looking for ways to keep learning during this time. And we just think this is a great way to really just enrich yourselves and make use of this time. So we're really excited. My team, Esther Pearl, our executive director and founder, is going to be joining us tomorrow. And Anjali, who's our social media just wizard over there, is also going to be participating in some Q&As this week as well. So we are really excited today to talk a little bit about the art of the interview. So I have about almost 10 years of experience as a print journalist and have also worked on some audio stories as well. And so basically interviewing is at the heart and core and soul of my job. And there are so many key points to be made about interviewing that could truly make or break a story. And so for filmmakers out there, especially those interested in going down the documentary filmmaking route, interviewing is also going to be how you will get the most riveting scenes on film. And it's also an opportunity to really pull out emotion in some people that you're interviewing. It's the tone and the pace at how you ask questions and the questions that you ask that could really make your film into a phenomenon. So we had the opportunity to offer this workshop in person about a month ago in Berkeley, and we had about 20 amazing filmmaking students, journalists, and just interested people that were really coming to learn about how to beef up their interviewing skills. And it was an amazing success, and we all learned so much from each other. So I'm hoping I get to share some of that with you today. So first off, I'm just gonna dive right into some content since we have so many wonderful supportive people watching already. Thank you so much for tuning in. What we want to kind of focus on, I'm going to boil it down because there is so much content, and I will also be available via email throughout the next few weeks and beyond if you do have more follow-up questions or specific questions when it does come to interviewing. So what I really want to focus on, I think, are how you ask questions. So I think that those are going to be the most important points we can make are how you ask your question, what types of questions you're asking, and also listening while the person you're interviewing is answering for potential follow-up opportunities, because it's very easy, I would say, to fall into the trap as a filmmaker, as an interviewer, to get caught up in the list of 50 questions that you've already pre-written, which is an amazing foundation to have. All of our filmmakers that were at our Art of the Interview workshop, we had Noam Argov, who is a local creator who does a lot of amazing features, documentary features on women in the outdoors. And she has an incredible understanding of being a great multitasker. So Noam really spoke to that point about being prepared before going into an interview and also multitasking. We had Naima Jordan at our Art of the Interview, who is currently doing a lot of great work, documentary filmmaking work on the mental health system in America, which we can always use more information on what's happening there. She also talked about the importance of being prepared. And then we had print journalist Susan Minicello, who talked about being prepared. But they all said that they go into interviews with a list of 50 questions. And then as the interview goes on, sometimes they drop all of those questions and truly let the person that they're interviewing guide them in the direction that could maybe change your entire story, but make it way better than it ever could have been. So we want to make sure that we're not gripping too tightly to our pre-researched questions, because the story isn't about what we want as creators. We are trying to highlight movements, news stories, and features that are happening in our communities, and we're interviewing those experts. So we want them to help us guide our stories. So definitely don't be too afraid to go off track from your notes. I would say that that's one of the most important points when we talk about our interview questions. So we have our pre-written questions. We are getting ready to talk to the person that we're interviewing. So the first really important point to make, and this happens to the best of us when we are nervous, is we tend to do yes and no questions. So that is a very initial nervous instinct, as we go for the very easy yes and no questions of, do you like movies? And if the person you're interviewing is also nervous, they could easily just be like, yes. Awkward silence, and then they stare at you. All of a sudden you feel your heart beating a little bit because maybe you're on camera, you're trying to get this juicy interview about the filmmaking industry, and they're just hitting you with one-word answers. This is an important place where you don't want to panic and get nervous and keep reverting to these very narrow question strategies. So, what do we think? Yes or no questions? Good? Bad? Let's stick with maybe not the best. What we want to do is ask leading questions. So we want to give that person, especially when we're just starting, which is why a lot of really great filmmakers will start with an easy question of, what did you eat for breakfast today? Not only do filmmakers do that to make sure the audio levels are correct, they also do it to get the person's nervous energy out. So they want to get the nervousness out. They want to let them ramble a little bit, and also just make a couple jokes, get them comfortable with the interview situation. Because we might be the experts as interviewers, as creatives, on how to do an interview. Sometimes the people joining us never, ever get interviewed, especially if it's on a very niche topic. This might be one of their first times encountering an interview. So, also, I was just told that the card is backwards on this. So have fun interpreting and reading backwards. I appreciate the support. Hopefully you still get the point. Yes and no questions. But so we want to try to get that nervous energy out first. And yes and no questions is usually not the best way to do that. It will create awkward silence, and sometimes you'll feel yourself getting nervous. And we want to make sure that the person we're interviewing is extremely comfortable. So leading questions are going to be very important. Like, what is the favorite movie of yours and why? Those are easy softball questions. What outdoor sports did you love as a kid? Or what were some of your favorite books as a kid? Those are easy questions to get the conversation going, even if they're not pertaining to the topic in which you're going to be discussing later in the interview. Like I said, it's a great way to get the nervous energy out. So we're gonna practice some of these tactics and more live right now. I have a very special guest joining me. As we all know, we're trying to keep social distancing in our focus. So we're supposed to be interacting with only people that we are currently living with. I have a great opportunity to live with my brother right now in the East Bay. His name is Matt Bordis, and he is in the tech industry and has a background in that. So I'm going to do a mock interview with him, and we're going to go over some positive and negative tactics when interviewing, and just how to get these skills and really sharpen them. And then at the end, I'm going to challenge you all to do something this week with the people in your household or animals in your household. We can get really creative. So I'd like to start this challenge. I'm going to bring Matt Bordis to join us on the couch to practice some interviewing.
Moving on.
We're gonna join. This is a shared screen. Here we go. So we're both in here. So would you like to just start, just for the audience as well? Tell us your age, your background, and yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself to start off.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be giving back some time to Real Stories. I think it's an incredible organization. I'm trying to represent them with the shirt right now,
which you can definitely check out online.
Yeah. So my name is Matt, as you said. My background is in software. I studied computer science at UC Davis. I graduated in 2016. I am 26 years old. I am the co-founder of a startup that automates timekeeping for lawyers. And yeah, I think I try to be pretty intentional in the community as well. I think tech has such a big impact on the livelihood and the local economies and just all the social structures here in the Bay Area. And I think it's important that people in the tech industry are aware of the network effects they have. So I've been trying to stay involved in the community in different ways as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. So he definitely offered to be our workshop guinea pig a bit here as we go through different interviewing, like I said. So I'm going to start with a few examples before we kind of get into how to do follow-up questions, and I'll pause and show you why I may be picking up on something or taking a note. So to start, here's a couple of examples, and then I'm going to pause and chat with you a little bit about it. So do you like the weather today?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Do you like living in Oakland?
Yeah.
Do you like what's happening right now with the current state of things?
No.
Do you like eating red meat?
No.
We are on a trend right now. As you can see, I'm getting a lot of one-word answers. So this would be a good time to hopefully have those thoughts in my mind to be like, I'm not getting any usable content right now. That's not very appealing on screen to have a person just shout out those yes and no questions and answers. And it's really not allowing me or my audience to get to know Matt in any real way. We know his background because he told me his bio, but quite frankly, you could Google that and you can go on LinkedIn and it's very easy to find someone's bio. We want to get to know Matt in a way that isn't as simple as here's 50 yes and no questions. It just really won't look well on screen. And especially with documentary filmmaking, we want to get to know something that you couldn't just find online. And to do that, we have to make the person a bit more comfortable. So here we go, round 2, trying a second time. Can you tell me a little bit about what you like about living in Oakland?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are great about living here. I think that the community it's a very familial community. I think people stay close together. they work together. There's a lot of local businesses that support each other here. I think they've also been, very accepting of just people from all walks of life, all races, genders, backgrounds. So I think it's an incredibly diverse community here, and I'm trying to, as a recent resident, as someone that just moved in here, I'm also trying to support the community here, because obviously there's a ton of issues in the Bay Area with just housing in general and the cost of living. So yeah, if I'm gonna move into a place in the Bay Area and live here, I don't want to support like gentrification or high costs of living. I would like to just support, sustainable housing in as much as possible and be a positive impact to the community. And I think people are really proud of Oakland and the history here. So I just really respect like everything they've done to uphold the community and its values.
So, as opposed to me asking Matt, do you like living in Oakland? Which could just be a simple yes or no. I got a little bit deeper and asked him, what specifically is it that you like about living in Oakland? That gave him the opportunity to take a second, be pensive, and think about that. And then I gave him the chance to really guide that answer in a different direction. So what was great is that he touched on some pretty big themes right now being discussed in the area, like gentrification, community, and diversity. So typically, when we aren't in an Instagram live situation, I would be sitting directly across from him. So the entire time as the person interviewing, I would make sure that I was remaining with as much eye contact with him as possible, which is especially easy if you're doing film. You don't have to be typing as many notes. Obviously, keeping a notebook nearby, jotting down notes or important things that he said is important, but I can maintain eye contact. And that makes Matt feel like he's being listened to, and that will help over time to distract from the cameras that are on him that could potentially make him more nervous and withholding. I also would like to make an important note that while he was answering, I was very interested in what he was saying, but I made certain that instead of cutting him off or jumping in with, wow, that's so great, or yes, me too, I was just nodding slightly to make sure that he knew I was still listening without interjecting and cutting him off. Not only will that make the editing process on filmmaking a lot smoother without having to cut out those sound bites, it also allows him to keep flowing without being interrupted, which will keep him on track and to answering. So I'm now going to start asking him a couple of questions about what I'm going to challenge you all to do this week, some of these questions, but you can also come up with your own questions. And then I will stop when something important happens, and I will communicate with you a certain thing to listen to. So, Matt, can you tell me about your earliest childhood memory?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think one very early memory is definitely growing up playing AYSO soccer and just being on the soccer field, playing games, just the halftime breaks with the orange slices. My family was really involved, and soccer was a huge part of our childhood, of my childhood, of your childhood. So yeah, I just think being on the field, prepping for games, usually we had practices all throughout the week, and then games on Saturdays. Just the smell of sweaty shin guards after the games was not the most pleasant memory, but a very visceral one when it comes to just a sensory memory. So yeah, just having my grandpa was a referee for us, and he would ref some of our games, and it was awesome having him out there, and our grandparents would be there. We had probably just 5 to 10 family members at every game, just sectioned off on the sidelines. So it was a really fun thing. I'm really grateful that my family was there. They were healthy, and yeah, I had the privilege to be able to play soccer. A lot of people don't have those opportunities.
So, obviously it was a very emotive response that he gave. He talked about family, he smiled, he giggled, And obviously, the nostalgia was hitting him in a way that made him smile and feel happy. So, if you could see me when he was smiling and he was giggling, I was mirroring that slightly because I'm encouraging him to keep going. Now, we don't have to laugh out loud when someone is laughing that we're interviewing, but we also have to remember that just because we're on a job and we're interviewing, we're also not robots. So it's okay to show emotion in a way that makes it feel like you're listening and that you care about their story, because that will encourage the person you're interviewing to go even deeper if they feel like they're being heard. So I was smiling, I was nodding, and I was being empathetic and also making sure that they knew that I was understanding what they were saying. So that was one important note. A second important note is, as opposed to me just jumping really quickly into the next question, he mentioned family and he mentioned how much it meant to him even as a child to have 5 to 10 family members on the sideline. And he also mentioned his grandfather. So there's a reason why that memory stood out so importantly to him. So instead of me just jumping into the next question, which could take the interview in a totally different direction, I'm going to instead play off what he had already mentioned and push him to go a little bit deeper. Please watch and wait for some feedback. You mentioned how amazing it was to have your grandpa refereeing at every game. What did that mean to you, and what was it like to have a family member a part of that experience?
Yeah, I think in terms of what it meant to me, just having that support there was very special. Having someone so dedicated to your success and dedicated to your life, an important part of your life, it just made me feel loved. It was a lot of love. He was just very involved in every aspect of our childhood. So he would just, when he put his mind to something, when there was something we were doing, he would always just dive in super deep as if he was a kid with us, and it was really special. And it was just, yeah, it just made me feel a lot of joy, a lot of happiness having him there. So that's what I was feeling. And I think the second part of your question was,
why was that so important to you to have a family member a part of that experience?
yeah, I mean, ancestrally, family is a huge part of just who we are as humans. Our genetic makeup is passed down, like hereditary traits, like our blood, our genes, our DNA, like our most intimate communities are family communities. So having family, I just think having like family, being around family is such a human, intrinsic human quality, and having family a part of your life is also just a nice add-on to any experience. I would say it's like okay, it's great that we have all these people here, but if it's a family member there, you just know like you're more comfortable with them there. You feel like you have another person supporting you. It's a safer space. They're watching your back, and you can share that special moment with them. So yeah.
That was really great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So at the end of it, when he was kind of finishing his thread, I thanked him as a way to signify that we were going to transition into a potentially different topic. So I asked him a few follow-up questions to the initial question I asked, because he got emotional and he got excited about something. So when you get to elicit that response from the person you're interviewing, you want to keep going down that path because they obviously feel very strongly about that thread, which means it will only create a better experience on film. When you're seeing it on film, it's so much better to see that in a documentary, see someone smiling to themselves or see someone getting emotional about a memory, as opposed to something much more sterile that might not trigger as much of a response. We want to make sure that we're obviously getting the information we need on film for our audience to understand the topics we're discussing. But we also are creatives, so we want to make sure that whatever we're asking will elicit a response, so that way we can get that emotion on film, or else it could be very boring and very drab, much like this plain wall. So, lastly, this will be the last question I ask before I open it up to the challenge we're going to offer to you all this week. And like I said, you can always ask us follow-up questions because we are going to be available digitally for the next few weeks. And I obviously love talking about this topic. Interviewing is something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm going to ask him another question, but this time I'm going to maybe not follow all of the guidelines of a great interview. So I will do a few things and then we'll talk about it after, and then I will pass it over to you all. So Matt, if you could tell me a little bit about a moment that you are most proud of.
Yeah, I would say it's something I touched on earlier about being in the tech industry and especially being a part of a startup. But I think I'm proud that I was able to grow the startup while being involved in the community and
I
giving
totally
back.
understand that.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, because I think, like I was saying, a lot of tech, like software engineers and just people in tech in general, I think we can get very just focused on our work.
Totally. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely just, I think the mindset and a lot of the workflow and being in the tech industry, you have to really just like focus and go deep on
Yes.
something.
Going deep. You have to
Yeah.
go deep on something. Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes we can lose focus about our community, our peripheral community, and just the people we're interacting with outside of our work.
100%. Okay, so I have another question totally different.
Okay.
So we're going to pause right there. So I wasn't probably practicing some of the best interview techniques there. I interjected a lot. How did it feel to be when I was interjecting? Did you lose your train of thought at all? Were you able to keep going on your point?
Yeah, definitely lost my train of thought a little bit and felt like I wasn't actually able to make the point I wanted to make. Like all my answers were probably like a third to a half complete, so.
Right. So he definitely got a little confused with maybe even what the original question was, because although I was very enthusiastic about what he was saying, I stumbled on top of his responses. So that caused him to in turn stumble. And in the end, I don't think he ever got to make his point. Do you feel like you ever made your point about what you were most proud of?
Not to its completion.
Did you feel like you even knew where you were going when I kept interrupting?
It was hard. I think it was like I was getting close to making the point I wanted to make, and then I would get cut off, and I'd sort of have to restart. Like get close and then get cut off and have to restart. So
it can definitely cause the vicious cycle of nothing's really making sense. This answer probably won't make it on the cutting. It will probably end up on the cutting room floor at some point because Matt just didn't really answer A, with emotion because I kept stepping on his toes, and B, he really never got to make his final point, which I know is great because I know about his tech startup as a personal person. So it would have been a great anecdotal story to include. But because I was very overeager, which again is sometimes a nervous tick, we want to be excited when we're interviewing. We want the person we're interviewing to know that we love what they're doing, that we support them. Oftentimes we can railroad them, and at the end we realize we didn't ever really get the answers that we needed to get. So that's just an important note to make. When I was interjecting, I just wanted you all to see maybe why that was uncomfortable, and then have Matt have the opportunity to talk about why he never felt that he got to finish his thoughts either. So those were just a few points I wanted to make today about interviewing. It's a vast topic, and quite frankly, the best way to get good at it is to practice it. I know a lot of us can get really nervous, but you have to remember that the person that you're sitting down to interview has trusted you to guide them. As an interviewer, you are guiding someone through an experience, whether it be talking to them about their proudest moment or a product they made or some sort of outdoor adventure that they're doing and you're following along and documenting it. So always important to remember that you are in control in a certain way, but then it's also important to remember to let go of that control and sometimes let the person you're interviewing take you in a totally new and sometimes very beautiful direction. I can say with definitiveness that there have been countless times I started reporting a story that the narrative changed 100% once I started interviewing people. And the story I thought I was going to have never even made it. It ended up being a completely new story. So don't be afraid of that either, because like I said, you can end up with an amazing documentary on something you never expected. So now for the challenge. Each week we're going to do either a video challenge or a filmmaking challenge that we're going to ask you to participate in. And if you're comfortable afterwards, we're going to ask that you share it with us. And there are two ways that you can share it with us. You can post it on your own Instagram story and tag us, so that way we can repost it on our social media accounts. Or you can email it to us if you don't really want to put it on social media right away, but you want to participate. You can totally still participate. You can email it to us and you can ask any questions. You can ask for input, and we would love to give you feedback on that. And also later in the week, we are going to have a discussion on some different video editing tactics that you can do at home. You can download certain things to your phone, like iMovie you can download to your phone and you can cut video right there on your phone. And you can also, if you want to take it a little step further, if you're looking for more of a personal learning experience and challenge, you can use Adobe Premiere Rush, which later in the week, we're going to have somebody go over with you. And it is an excellent foray into a step up direction as far as editing software. So we're going to do that with you and work with you on that. So the challenge, depending on where you are self-isolating and social distancing and who you are with, we're going to ask you to ask 3 questions and you're going to film it on your phone. Although right now on Instagram Live, my phone is vertical, we're going to have you shoot your film horizontally and try to remember the 3/4 rule. So we don't maybe always want to shoot straight on, but maybe to the side. It will give you great angles. So we're going to ask you to do a mini documentary challenge. So you could do any topic of your choice, depending on who is in the household. You can interview just one person and ask them 3 questions on camera. And you could set it up like this, much more of like a formal interview style. Or you can ask multiple people in your household the same question or different questions. So these are some examples in case you find yourself getting stuck on not really knowing what you want to ask. You can do some of the things that I did, which is number 1, what's your earliest childhood memory? Number 2, what is a moment you are most proud of? And number 3, what is your favorite film with a female lead? That's always a fun one because it'll get people thinking, and oftentimes we realize that we don't always get to find out a lot of movies with female leads, but they are out there, and tomorrow we're going to go over that in the form of the Bechdel test. If you do not know what that is, tune in at 11 tomorrow, and we're going to have an amazing talk about media literacy on that. So we ask you to ask those 3 questions. Earliest childhood memory, a moment you are most proud of, and favorite film with a female lead. Those are 3 questions that we came up with that you can ask, or you can totally take in a new direction. Film it horizontally. You can spend as much time interviewing or as little time as you want. Edit it if you want to with iMovie on your phone. You can download it to the computer and do Adobe Premiere Rush. Put it on your Instagram. Tag Real Stories so that we can share it, or email us. And please put in the email whether or not you want us to share it on social media. That's our challenge for the week. We want to give you until Friday to do that. Obviously, take more time if you want, but you can do it as soon as today and send it to us, and we would love to start sharing content. We will also post this on our Instagram, just a reminder of the challenge. We'll be like, don't forget, mini documentary challenge. Here's what we're doing this week. So that is our challenge number 1. And as the days go on, we're going to have another amazing opportunities. Tomorrow, Esther Pearl will be discussing media literacy and the Bechdel test, which talks a lot about females in the filmmaking industry and also in the films we watch, how women are portrayed. So we want to do that. We also are going to do quick 30-minute talks with experts in different fields. And we're also going to do some great screenings. And remember, another note to remember too, when you're doing these interviews, you can also FaceTime people. So in case you do live alone, which so many of us do, you can also FaceTime interview, which would be great as well. So there's a lot of ways to get creative, and don't be afraid to get out there and try. We're really encouraging people to keep learning new skills during this time, and we are just especially excited to keep pushing our agenda forward of closing the gender gap and also smashing the patriarchy in the filmmaking industry. That does not stop just because we are quarantined. We need to keep pushing that even more than ever. We would also like to take this moment to say that we are, as so many of you know, a very small, tight-knit nonprofit. And like so many small businesses and community members out there that are trying to come up with very creative and innovative ways to keep offering services to our communities, Real Stories is doing the same. So every little bit helps. If you or your parents, if there are students tuning in, or you as adults would feel so inclined to support us, even a $5 donation is a great addition to have. So you can go online to our website. We just launched a new website and it is beautiful. We've worked really hard on it. We've improved so many great little different tools and areas. So you can also spend time checking that out. But it would be really great if any donation could help. So it'd be amazing, $5 to $10 a week. We are going to keep offering these services to you for free online, and it's something we're going to keep trying out in the future. So the email address to send any of your questions to, if you want to reach out to me and you have questions about interviewing, I would love to answer them. If you have any questions on this video or you missed something or you want a refresher, email me. If you, for sending all of your videos, if you don't want to do it on social media, email me. Email address is Alexandria, ALEXANDRIA at real-stories.com. REEL-stories.com. Alexandria at real-stories.com. So I welcome all questions, all comments, all videos. We are really looking forward to working with you all over the next couple of weeks. And thank you to everybody who tuned in and out and commented. And just your continual support has really humbled us as we are figuring out, like you, how to keep learning and navigating the constant back and forth with news. So thank you so much. Our social marketing guru, Anjali, is going to post this challenge all over our social media accounts. And we also will put it in emails as well to people who are looking to join. So please stay tuned. We have a lot of exciting things happening this week. Our new website address is www.real-stories.com as well. And all of your inquiries will come to us, and we look forward to all of this continued digital learning. A special thank you to Matt, who joined us today and was my mock interview guinea pig. He was thrown on the spot and got asked some deep questions, so let's give it up for Matt. And representing with his t-shirt. So we look forward to hearing from you. Any questions? We hope you have a great day, and tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Esther Pearl to go over the Bechdel test and media literacy. Later this week, stay tuned for a screening. We'll talk to you all later. Have an amazing day.
Bye. Have a good one.